It is Wednesday, 9/6/2017. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it's been a little bit somber and sad, frankly, around here. I've been doing the old greenhouse project, and I had a little mishap, and a clamp that I had holding up some roof material fell and hit one of my plants, and I lost a really big branch full of a whole bunch of really nice little bud starts. So yeah, I'm a little sad, but the plant otherwise is doing fine, and I did seem to get a few clones off of it. So it wasn't a complete loss, as I actually hadn't taken clones off of it yet. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it, really. You know, I managed to get a lot of work done today, although I did not get to jiu-jitsu, and I'm sorely disappointed about that. But you know, that always messes with my brain chemistry, man. If I'm not getting thrown around every other day, something goes wrong with my brain. You know, it's just not working right. But I don't know. Other than that, though, I did manage to get a lot of work done, and of course, it did start raining today. And so I don't know. It's kind of race against the clock at this point. You know, I gotta get up one little bit on one side, and then I can finish off the other side of the roof, and then get on to training. And so as far as crypto goes, honestly, the thing I've been paying the most attention to lately has been the price of Verge. It's just been going through the roof. I mean, check that chart. It jumped all over the place. I mean, I was starting to think, gosh, you know, maybe I had to sell off a little bit or something. No. You know, thankfully, Google fucked me over really, really badly. You know, it's like, I think I was talking about this on the last episode, how I'm really offended by this migration to take away more and more of your control over your digital devices and the software that you run on them. And my particular dismay is the fact that not only are they just taking the control at this point, but they're incapable of handling it. I mean, it's like it would be different if we had more choices, because then you could freely migrate between one or more choices that would at least give you enough diversity to where you could try and keep the market in line by being able to directly express your opinion or your feelings to the market. You know, it's like there's this thing on Facebook and Twitter now where, you know, if you post stuff that somebody doesn't like, you know, they'll say, "Oh, fake news." It's like, no, it's not fake news. It's just you don't want to listen to it. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go ahead and throw down into some music. And with regard to what to throw in here, you know, sometimes I forget about all of the wonderful older music that I have when I'm buying new music. And I do have some new music today. I got some Suicidal Tendencies, How Will I Laugh Tomorrow If I Can't Even Smile Today. And I got Sixth, Future in Whose Eyes. And that it's a really cool album, by the way, that one, Sixth. My only problem with it is they insist on putting these spoken word parts in their albums. And I'm sure they serve somebody's purpose, but I'm not getting it. I mean, honestly, it reminds me of being 17 years old and trying to use poetry to pick up on chicks. It doesn't work. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down some old Crowbar here. Wrath of Time, Be Judgment. here on Coin Metal. And that was Slayer with Seasons in the Abyss. Hey. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but my brain is just not working today, man. I guess it might be because I busted ass all day. I mean, I really did. I finally got a direction that I wanted to go in with regard to the roof. And because I think I've said this on the show before, that I've just been completely freeballing this project. But the results so far seem to be very, very good. I mean, the plastic that I did today on the roof is very, very taut. You know, and it's, I think that as I have it set up, it'll be that much more likely to survive a significant storm, which isn't, in fact, the entire point of it, you know, is that it'll keep my plant safe in the event that it should rain too hard or some shit like that. Speaking of, I am just a teeny tiny high. I like to do that when I get on the old treadmill. And yeah, as far as direction to go, I did get our the episode for last Friday, 9/1/2017, up on the YouTube channel. So if you did miss that, feel free to go on back there and check it out. As usual, I am recording this one, and so yeah, you know, in a couple days or whatever, I'll have it uploaded onto my YouTube channel for your listening pleasure. And so yeah, last time around we were talking about ICOs in China and the United States, and one thing that I do want to make perfectly clear about ICOs, despite all the bluster, despite all of the bullshit, not a single government, federal government, has made a definitive move against ICOs or cryptocurrencies. Now, there's a bunch of bluster and there's a bunch of bullshit. And let me tell you something. If there were a time, okay, when you could say something to your representatives that could literally change the direction of human development on planet Earth, and I know that sounds like I'm going way out there, being parabolic and whatnot, but no, I'm not making a specious claim here. That is reality. If ever there were a time when you could say something to your representatives that could really make a difference, it's now. And you need to be telling them, hey, hands off of cryptocurrencies. You know, the looser we are on regulation, the better that's going to be for us. You know, this bullshit that you're protecting us. Hell, we've been doing this shit for 9 years. If we were going to get wrecked, we made it 2 weeks, and that was it. You know, people laugh and talk about the outrageous profits that you could be making trading cryptocurrencies. Yeah, you know why that is? It's because for every one of you that is still successful and still trading and still has a decent bag of coins of anything, of any amount, for every one of you, 5 people gave up. They put $100 to $500 on the line. They traded. They got horribly wrecked in like minutes, maybe even seconds. And they said, nope, this market is entirely too steep and entirely too fast for me. I can't do it. I can't do it. I got to walk away. Walk away from the table. You know. And it's good that they do that, really. I mean, and all of us, it happens to all of us. And I don't care how seasoned a trader you are. You get into cryptocurrency trading, and you think you're doing fine, and then all of a sudden you just get horribly wrecked. You know, the market takes a 90-degree turn. You know, you were going up and up and up and up, and then all of a sudden, wrecked. And it gets even worse when you start doing margin calls and shit, or not margin. That's not the right word for it. Not betting on margin. You know what I mean. Anyway, so there's this attitude that I've been seeing in these articles, and the people that are in legacy finance, they look at us like we're idiots. I mean, the fact of the matter is we're the people that design the bricks. We're the people that determine the constituency of the fucking pavement. And we're the people that created the infrastructure. That now these other people who have done none of these things, probably have never even downloaded a fucking wallet to their phone, are pointing to us and saying that we are not qualified to do these things. And I just... it reminds me a lot of that whole Star Trek episode where Picard gets captured and they try and brainwash him into saying that there's 5 lights or something like that, and there's really only 4. And that's reminiscent of 1984. And it reminds me of that. It's like, you know, here we are in this computerized age, and it's like these people are saying, you know, finance is too sophisticated for you. Fuck, we're designing our own web pages, for Christ's sake. I mean, we're designing the algorithms to mine these coins by. I mean, the idea that we are incapable of doing these things is fucking silly. It's just fucking silly. You know, if we were to be modernizing everything according to the line of what is actually possible with the technologies that are available right now, like 0.15 of all the people that are working right now would be working. And that includes white-collar workers and executives and executive assistants and executive assistant dog walker. All of those people can be replaced. Fucking flash of a fucking blink of an eye. That's how much technology is available out there. There's so much technology available out there right now that kids no older than 14 or 15 years old are designing and building their own rail guns. And then they're making videos of them building and designing and testing and then using these rail guns that they have built from their own design on YouTube, showing other people how to make rail guns. Give me a fucking break. You are walking amongst fucking Einsteins with this information superhighway at their fingertips, and you're telling them you're not capable of existing in the 21st century. I know how to protect you. It's sickening. I mean, it's just sickening. It's sickening. I would call it hubris, but it's just sickening. It's like some apathetic fucking echo chamber that these people live in, and they constantly have to like recharge themselves. I guarantee you, they have to like be hit by the person on over them in their hierarchy or something. You know, that every day they come into the office and this person strikes them just to remind them of the basis of their authority or whatnot, and then they can go out and have their day where they're saying these radical fucking things to us, because you know we're not the person that slaps them every morning, and we have no relation to that person, and so of course we don't have any power over this stuff. It doesn't matter that we are the market. and we are the source of the code that the market consists of, no, none of that matters. No, we're not the person that feeds them their knuckle sandwich in the morning, and so, we're just insignificant. And I had an article here that that kind of backs up that perspective here from them. And this is on CoinDesk. Roaches. SEC chief speaks out against malicious ICOs. Now, and I just want to say this. What's the difference between an ICO and a malicious ICO in the eyes of somebody like the SEC? Probably no difference whatsoever. Anyway, continuing on. A member of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's SEC Division of Enforcement has spoken out against malicious initial coin offerings. In seemingly off-the-cuff remarks at a panel discussion in New York, not surprising at all, on Tuesday, SEC co-director Stephen Pekin claimed that such sales could pose a threat to retail investors, a problem with the SEC. A problem which the SEC is now trying to address, according to Reuters. And we may actually read that article. Most notably, he compared those seeking to leverage the blockchain use case improperly to cockroaches. As with any kind of newsworthy event, roaches kind of crawl out of the woodwork and try to scam money off investors. The comments follow an escalation of regulatory announcements on ICOs, with the SEC recently ruling tokens may be classified as securities, though such decisions are being made case by case, meaning if you're our friend, we'll let you slide. Since then, Canada, China, and Hong Kong have followed suit, with only China taking aggressive steps to ban ICOs altogether. And they're not, actually. On the heels of those announcements, the SEC is said to be targeting bad actors in the space, with Pekin indicating this responsibility has fallen to the agency's distributed ledger technology group, launched in 2013. In recent weeks, that group has taken action against ICOs still in development, with the SEC putting a particular emphasis on publicly traded companies. Various other SEC investigations on fraudulent ICOs are underway, Pekin reportedly stated. Yeah, you know what? Go fuck yourself, Pekin. According to CoinDesk data, ICOs have raised $1.8 billion all-time as of August. Yeah, I think these people are just silly. They seem to think that they can actually discern what a proper use case of a blockchain is. I mean, their group supposedly has existed since 2013, but this is the first we've heard of them. I mean, I haven't heard of this division to monitor blockchains. Have you? Where is it? I'm still trying to find the spot where it mentioned that. Here it is. The agency's Distributed Ledger Technology Group. Now, here's the problem with this. Distributed ledger wasn't even a buzzword back in 2013. So, on that mark, it's bullshit. If it had existed in 2013, the SEC most likely would have had a lot more harsh things to say about altcoins. And as they did not, the likelihood of the existence of this distributed ledger technology group back in 2013 is even that much more impossible. I mean, considering all the blabbing they've been doing recently, I'd have to say that, again, they didn't exist. It's just a bunch of bullshit. this is interesting. This is kind of like an addendum on this. And I would like to add right off the bat here that anything out of New York when it comes to cryptocurrencies should immediately be taken as suspect, because they live in a digital gulag in New York. They passed their fucking shit license back in 2013, 2014, might even been 2015. I can't remember the year, but when they did that, they completely fucked New York. A lot of big companies moved out of New York, and since then they've been on a blacklist with a massive backlog at the NYDFS of companies that, despite all the bullshit, are still willing to try and put up with the compliance nightmare that the NYDFS has put before them, and their applications are sitting on the shelf because the NYDFS doesn't know what to fucking do with them. As a matter of fact, the NYDFS probably didn't even have any regulatory guidelines for how to determine whether or not a project was viable. You know, Losky just he helped them draw up some basic framework stating their regulatory responsibility or something, or the scope of the types of investments that they're supposed to be investigating or something. And he just fucking bailed. He was like, well, now I'm gonna go be an advisor and tell everybody how to deal with this law in New York. And the first thing I'm going to do is tell them not to try and set up shop in New York. I mean, but that was actually not the first thing he did. The first thing he did after leaving there was going to California and getting into some sort of advisory group that was how should I say this? They were basically hired by the state legislature, or sought by the state legislature to advise them on how to write up their shit. And if you do investigate any of this legislation, you'll notice that they put all of the demands on the cryptocurrency company. Okay, so now say you're a cryptocurrency company in Costa Rica, and you've got offices in Bonn, Germany, Sacramento, California, and maybe Salt Lake City, Utah. Okay, every time that they have an issue with you in California, they decide, we got to audit your books. Okay. They're going to send somebody to your Sacramento office, and then that person is going to go to your Salt Lake City, Utah office, and you're going to pay for their travel, and you're going to pay for their lodging, and you're going to pay them $75 an hour for every hour that they're there doing their audit. And if they're not alone, if there's more than one of them, you will be paying that person as well. And then they'll be having to go to your Bonn, Germany office, and then back around to your Costa Rica office. And you're going to have to pay for their travel. What kind of bullshit is this, where you're supposed to be so fucking rich that you can afford that kind of regulatory bullshit? And what's worse is all of the legislation also has this magic wand power given to whoever it is that's running that department, where they can just say, oh yeah, my buddy's kid wants to try his hand in cryptocurrencies, and we're going to go ahead and sign him up with a provisional license. And I think after 12 months, I'll just keep it going. I'll just extend it another 12 months, and I'll make it as good as a permanent one as far as the official stuff that they have to do. Their regulatory requirements and whatnot. We'll just give them a full ride there. Those are the kinds of powers that they're writing into these laws. do you think you have a chance in fucking hell? If you don't have millions of dollars that you could spend on fucking bribery and registration and fees and all that, forget about it. Forget about it. Just fucking scrap your gear and go. You know, go take up crochet or something. You know, you want to participate in crypto, sell that for Dogecoin, and you'll be all right. But what's really funny to me is the last piece of federal legislation that I read. There's this guy that was mentioned specifically in it, and it was like Song Po or something like that. And I'm looking at this, going, why is this person, you know, not a city, not a state, a person, getting deference in United States legislation? By name, a specific person getting deference in United States legislation. Not even like Queen of England or something like that. You know, something really important. No, this guy is Song Po. Who the fuck is Song Po? And I don't even know that that's the real name, but that's the name that, for whatever reason, just kind of stuck to it. But anyway, point being that this person is getting deference and regulatory relief in the very legislation that is meant to contain how much money you can move around, because you might be a terrorist or you might be funding terrorists. I mean, what's the likelihood that this person, the Song Po, if that's his name, what's the likelihood that he might be involved in a little bit of terrorism himself? You know, or maybe he's a facilitator of our terrorism abroad, or, you know, some such. That's why we give him some sort of deference. And I find it a joke. I find it a complete and total joke. I mean, if our founding fathers were half the men that they were supposedly were, I would think that they would be not very happy with that. You know, as far as what kind of direction our government has been taking. In any case, I want to go ahead and throw back down into some music. I'm starting to feel like we're on the verge of a major pogrom in this country, and I could be wrong, but I don't know. Something about it. Something about the air. I guess it's because we're in the middle of so many forest fires that there's all this ashen flavor in the air, but I've been feeling the need to play this one. It's Testament, The Burning Times, here on Coin Metal. And that was Pantera with Cowboys from Hell. Just managed to finish up a little smoke break there. Let's see here. And so yeah, we were talking a little bit about ICOs and the goofiness of the idea of trying to regulate them. And I don't know, it seems like this is about all I've been talking about lately. You know, it's like, we were doing a lot of shit about SegWit there for a bit, but ICOs seem to be drawing the most attention right now. And it kind of bothers me because I really don't, honestly, I really don't get into ICOs. I find them completely ridiculous. I think if you're going to do an ICO, you need to do an altcoin. And eventually I think that that'll be the return to it. You know, that people quit trying to coat. Basically, these ICOs, to me, they're an effort to coattail some bullshit coin idea onto an existing cryptocurrency. That's it. You know what I mean? There is use cases for them. Don't get me wrong. You know, they do have a utility. But where I see a utility for them would be in things like, I don't know, there are certain ways that I've been thinking about to try and circumvent what regulation is actually being put forward. And there's certain things that I've been looking for that I haven't been seeing a lot of mention. And one of the ideas I had is an in-house coin. There doesn't seem to be any regulation being talked about with regard to an in-house coin. And with regard to that, the way I envision it working is like I have an existing business, right? But I offer as my payment method one specific currency that's only available and redeemable on my website. Can't be used anywhere else, can't be used outside, can't be traded on an exchange or anything like that. It'd only be usable within my site. And there are provisions for such a token existing in like, bit license and all those other things, is that they state specifically that if you're using it as like an on-site coin or something like that, their regulation doesn't apply to you, which is cool. I mean, if you were really, really smart, you could offer, say, representations of a coin, as opposed to the real deal, and have your own little trading symbols for them and whatnot on your exchange. It'd be kind of interesting to do. Who wants to get into Discord and hear my lovely voice? Dude, you're supposed to be listening to me. Fuck you, CryptoRect. God damn it, Jim. Anyway, what got me rambling onto this was this idea that there's going to be some sort of crackdown on ICOs. Again, there hasn't been any definitive act by any group. I mean, like, the CBOC is advised against trading ICOs. That doesn't mean that they're illegal. It just means that the regulated exchanges won't be offering new ICOs yet. And that's just the regulated exchanges. I'm sure there are other exchanges that will be running around there that'll have their own ICO structures and all that other business. And this article kind of lends a little credence to that idea. And let's see if this... I want to make sure that this isn't just a reference to an article from somewhere else. Read more on... Okay, yeah, it's different. Okay. And this is... Go ahead and try and stop... You know what? I want to go into... I want to read this article. I really do. But I don't think it's the right time yet. Because I think we need to contrast it against some of the other things that are going on in cryptocurrencies at the moment. And leave it to Shift Gold to give us an article that counterpoints any positive sentiment with regard to cryptocurrencies. And so yeah, this is on Shift Gold. Government crackdowns and regulation could take shine off of cryptocurrencies. And this is authored on September 6, 2017 by Shift Gold. Bitcoin has risen meteorically in recent months. Many investors call cryptocurrency, quote, the new gold. But at least one analyst sees trouble on the horizon for cryptocurrencies in the form of government crackdowns. A recent announcement in China lends credibility to his warning. Bloomberg reports emerging markets fund manager Mark Mobius warned that governments will begin clamping down on digital currencies because of their use in illicit financing, terrorism, and drug trafficking. He said that that's going to mean a rush back to gold. Quote, cryptocurrencies are beginning to get out of control. Cryptocurrencies are beginning to get out of control, and it's going to attract the attention of governments around the world. You're going to get a reversion back to gold because people are going to wonder, can I really trust these currencies? Sir, that is not what we're wondering. As if to confirm Mobius's prophecy, on Monday, the People's Bank of China announced initial coin offerings are now illegal. That's bullshit. And ordered a halt of all related fundraising activity. In an ICO, digital currency based on blockchain technology is sold publicly and often traded on secondary exchanges. According to Bloomberg, the Chinese central bank said it will strictly punish offerings in the future while penalizing legal violations in ones already completed. The regulators said that those who have already raised money must provide refunds, though it didn't specify how the money would be paid back to investors. It also said digital token financing and trading platforms are prohibited from doing conversions of coins with fiat currencies. Digital tokens can't be used as currency on the market, and banks are forbidden from offering services to initial coin offerings. The next day, an advisor for the People's Bank of China called generally for tighter regulation of cryptocurrencies. Quote, a large number of individual investors, including Dema, middle-aged retired women entering the market, was a signal that ICOs have entered the regulation phase. PBOC advisor Song Cheng said, This rectification is mainly to warn of risks and protect investors' rights. Give me a fucking break. Bitcoin fell 10% after the PBOC announcement. That's not what did it. Bitcoin specifically, and cryptocurrencies in general, have been the darling of the investment world over the last several months. Bullshit. Years. Many investors have treated Bitcoin as a safe haven as geopolitical tensions have risen. Its decentralized nature and anonymity makes it difficult for governments to control. Even with the 10% sell-off, Bitcoin is still up more than 350% on the year. According to data from CoinMarketCap.com, the dollar value of the 20 biggest cryptocurrencies currently stands at around $150 billion. Mobius said investors need a means of exchange they can trust. He made his comments before the Chinese announcement. Quote, right now the trust is good. With Bitcoin, people are buying and selling it. They think it is a reasonable market, but there will come a day when government crackdowns come in and you begin to see the currency come down. Yeah, whatever. Precedent in the war on cash. Governments don't like anything that empowers individuals and diminishes their control. We're seeing this in the ongoing, quote, war on cash. Just last spring, the International Monetary Fund published a creepy working paper offering government suggestions on how to move toward a cashless society, even in the face of strong public opposition. There are strong parallels between cash and cryptocurrency that make it seem likely that government will eventually try to crack down on digital currency as well. The excuse for the war on cash is always fighting criminals and terrorists, as the argument goes. The seedier elements of society, like the anonymity of cash, By eliminating it, governments can crack down on crime and protect the general populace. But there is a more basic reason for the war on cash: control. By controlling access to your own money, banks and governments increase their control over you. They can collect maximum taxes and fees, they can track purchases, they can even manipulate your spending habits by imposing negative interest rates that effectively charge you for saving. For these same reasons, those waging the war on cash also hate Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Both put control back into the hands of the individual and take it away from bureaucrats, bankers, and politicians. Now we're beginning to see these same arguments against Bitcoin as we've seen against cash. Consider this from a Bloomberg article headlined, "Are Bitcoins the criminal's best friend?" No, they aren't. Diversify. Does this mean that you should avoid Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies completely? Not necessarily. Bitcoin has significant upside. Bitcoin and precious metals both offer alternatives to government-monopolized fiat currency. They play a similar role as free market sound money. But as with any financial instrument, there are potential pitfalls. Diversifying your cryptocurrency portfolio with precious metals can help mitigate some of the potential downsides and put you in an overall stronger financial position. Just consider the old adage, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. And the last line there is just a shilling for Shift Gold, and we're not going to do that for them. Sorry. I will say this is a bit more charitable article than Shift Gold generally is with regard to cryptocurrencies. I think maybe Peter is starting to kind of see the light with regard to them. And I will say again that other than what we've seen with regard to money transmitter legislation being enacted in Washington and the stupid action that's causing, what we see with regard to national governments is still a hands-off approach. It's because they don't know how to handle it. They really don't. There isn't any way that they could actually stop you from doing transactions. I mean, there are ways that they can stop you from doing transactions, don't get me wrong. But there are more ways for you to do transactions than they have ways to stop. You know? And one thing I'd advise wholeheartedly is, if you are not playing with some funds, like at the moment, you know, you're not spending them for any reason, you're not on an exchange with them, you're not taking them to a flea market or whatever and buying coffee or some shit like that. Whatever it is, okay? Whatever volume that you're not currently messing with, I strongly suggest taking it off of exchanges. Hold it yourself. Do as, you know, the cryptocurrencies allow, and hold them on your person or in some cold storage somewhere. You know, the biggest point of cryptocurrencies in that aspect is that we can hold them ourselves. And that's what makes them so dangerous. Okay, it's not that you're going to be funding Al Qaeda with them, because as we see in everyday newspapers, the biggest sponsors of terrorism are in fact national governments, most specifically America and NATO, but we won't go there. Point being that these organizations, ISIS, ISIL, all those, they aren't getting fucking paid in cryptocurrencies. And so this bullshit that we're somehow related some way to illicit finance or fucking criminal behavior, fuck you. Fuck you. People come into cryptocurrencies so they can survive. They don't come into here because they want to do the extra special crime, unless it's to rip other people off that are using cryptocurrencies. But we generally, people get into cryptocurrencies because they've been blocked from banks. Like me, I had a bank account for a short period of time. Despite issues with that bank, they opened a fucking bank account with me. And I tried to attach the account to a Kraken account, and they closed it shortly thereafter. Now, despite the debt that I had to them previously, they opened the account without any warning or whatever. I try to do one thing with the account. I try to attach it to my Kraken account, and it gets closed. I don't even get to do a deposit or a withdrawal from it, and it gets closed. Now that's bullshit. That is utter bullshit. I am in good standing. I have no felonies against me. Fuck, I don't even think I have any misdemeanors. But despite all of that, oh, you're dealing in cryptocurrencies? Oh yeah, we're just going to shut down your account. Fine, fuck you. I'll just stick entirely in cryptocurrencies, and where I have to, I'll use like Walmart or something like that. You know, I think the thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to put choke points on cryptocurrencies where they can, and the only place that they can really do that is where cryptocurrencies interface with fiat currencies. Now, what this is going to force is an economy or several economies to develop that deals solely in exchanges between coins, cryptocurrencies, and products. So, we'll have our cryptocurrency exchanges, only they won't interface with fiat currencies at all. They'll have a set number of trading pairs, but for the most part, well, actually entirely, they will be all crypto. And we will have stores online that will take various cryptocurrencies. We're going to have some that take Dash. We're going to have some that take Litecoin. We're going to have some that take Segwit coin. We're going to have some that take Bitcoin Cash. Some that take Verge currency. Maybe a few that take several currencies and transact in them exactly as you would in fiat currencies. And that the only relationship there'll be from those coins in that exchange to cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies will be products, if and only if they're also sold in markets that are governed by fiat currencies or that are based on fiat currencies. And I mean, I can see a future where, whether it be darknet or opennet, we will have markets that do not interface at all with fiat currency. And when that happens, then the real fun will begin. Anyway, I want to go ahead and throw back down into a little bit of music here. And I do have so much new stuff. It makes it kind of difficult to decide exactly what I want to pick here. Fuck it. Life is Good Ministry here on Coin Metal. And that was Meshuggah with Marrow. Yeah, a friend of mine was in a particularly despondent state, and a friend of mine reached out and bought a copy of this for me because I had expressed a certain regret that I was so broke that I would not even be able to afford the latest Meshuggah album. And as we had a kind of a mutual appreciation for Meshuggah, she knew exactly what I was feeling. And so next thing I knew, a copy of Kolos arrived in the mail, and so that resolved my little issue there. And so it's good to have friends like that, that not only know you but are willing to hook you up like that in a time of need. Any case, so yeah, we did that. And we might do that. And we're not going to do that yet. Okay. This one's on Bitcoin News. Ether price analysis. China's ICO ban may lead to further pullbacks. This was authored on September 7th, 2017. After Labor Day weekend, many ETH/USD traders were surprised to find a 30% market drop over the course of 3 days. After an initial drop to the 330s, the ETH/USD market suffered another blow as China announced it will be banning ICOs and conducting rigorous investigations into several of the newer coins, such as NEO and OMG. This announcement from the Chinese government prompted several large Chinese exchanges to begin delisting coins under investigation. After all was said and done, the drop to $280 marked a 38% retracement since ETH/USD bull run from $130 to $400 values. And then there's a nice little chart here. After seeing the test of the macro 38% Fibonacci retracement value shown above, the ETH/USD markets managed to bounce to the 23% retracement values. At the time of this article, the market is currently finding support at 23% retracement, but the steam to continue a substantial bull run is still waning. Looking closely at the current trend, we can see potential bearish continuation pattern called a bear flag. And yeah, it's just a brief little uptick according to the chart here. I don't know. I think that Ethereum is going to be kind of goofy for a lot of people. You got to remember that these ICOs that are dependent on Ethereum, when the people that are running the ICOs need, capital, not just operating capital, whatever capital, they sell some of their Ethereum. And so that sends all kinds of interesting signals to the market. They're like, oh, hey, wait a minute here, what's going on? Maybe we should dump our Ethereum now and get ahead of the $140 million worth of Ethereum that guy's still holding. We don't want to see him sell it off really quick and fuck us all up, right? But, with regard to the Chinese, I think basically they're seeing so much expansion, they wanted to say something to the exchanges and whatnot, just to try and keep them, minding their P's and Q's, or at least, making sure that they are doing some sort of due diligence before just signing on these coins. And personally, I think we're better off without them. And I've said this a bit before on the show, that the biggest problem with regulators is that they give a stench of trustability to whatever it is that they're regulating. Their presence and their regulating of a certain commodity or a certain security or whatnot, it gives an assurance to the public that somebody is watching these people. Somebody has, done the sniff test and ran the thing through a scanner, made sure it was all right before they allowed it out there. Now, Of course, mind you, we still can't get an audit of the Federal Reserve's books, and they run our money. However, regulatory scrutiny, the likes of which the Federal Reserve will never see, is being put on these cryptocurrency projects. What do you think the likelihood of them getting their license is? It's pretty fucking narrow. But I find it really offensive that in an age when we cannot get an audit of the books of the people that quote-unquote make the money that we use to transact in our daily lives, we can't get an audit of their books. But holy cow, if you want to launch an ICO, we're going to stuff a fucking microscope clean up your ass. What, you got some friends? They might be involved in this? Well, we're going to investigate them too. What? They got a parking ticket? No, you can't have a license here in Washington. What? They're 40 pounds overweight? Forget it. Nope, they're outside the physical fitness requirements, so they can't have an ICO in Washington. They can't do business here. The shit is so ridiculous. I mean, and if they were actually putting up qualifications that I considered like necessary for the average person to really care about with regard to a cryptocurrency, then I would lend some credence to them. But I don't. As a matter of fact, I just see a whole bunch of bullshit that will allow them to say no to you and say yes to their best buddies with complete impunity and beyond all question, because their best buddies will be already regulated. You know, they'll already have their federal licensure. Oh, hey, these guys can get a FINRA license, or they can get a license from FinCEN. No problem. We'll just go ahead and sign them up with a provisional license, and shit, we won't even charge them for it. You know, no accounting for the fact that the chief VC for that particular project or exchange or whatever happens to be on the same golf team as the master of the NYDFS or whoever it is that's offering the licensure. And I mean, they're all in on it, so the likelihood that it'll be brought into question is pretty low. And if it is ever brought into question, there's enough of them that are in on it together that it'll still be heads they win and tails you lose. Yeah, it saddens me, because we have the capability to get beyond that, and we're going to get beyond that, but we're going to be considered criminals for getting beyond that for a short period of time. And when I say a short period of time, I think that what we saw in India with regard to their capital controls, and they're deciding that they're going to make their $500 and $100 bills illegal or something, or 1,500. So I can't remember what it was, but anyway, the whole effort was that they were basically going to do the IMF, like their experiment that was suggested. That when you hear shit about the IMF and their experiment, what they're talking about is the capital controls, the likes of which we've seen in Venezuela and in India, where the government just says, oh, you know, we're going to make these adjustments and you're just going to suck it. And I mean, in India, it's been an abject failure. Literally, it caused the deaths of people. The change of monetary policy caused the deaths of people. People are starving, and it's not like it's an easy time of year for them either. This is their monsoon season. So they're getting fucked in the ass by nature, and on top of that, they're getting fucked in the ass by their government. I mean, because heaven forbid you lose all of your money in the flood, Now you don't even have your wheelbarrow to carry around your dollar bills with, because that's how many you need just to buy a meal. Give me a fucking break. Anyway, we're seeing a failure of these policies in India, and on top of that, we're seeing them eyeballing cryptocurrencies like they're going to get down on them and shit. And it's so laughable. It's like, dude, you guys are getting fucked by... You're getting group fucked by nature and government and policy and all that other shit, and you want to try... you want to fuck with cryptocurrencies? I don't think so. And it's exactly those realities that are going to keep the football of cryptocurrency regulation in play. I mean, the governments like the Chinese government and the U.S. government and the Russia government, they all get real threatening about it, right? And then they see how cryptocurrencies are affecting their enemies or their perceived enemies. And they're like, well, wait a minute. These are actually having a negative effect on the financial structure of Russia. If we get too harsh on them, then that effect might go away. Because they might think that, because we can do this level of containment, that they can do this level of containment as well. And then all of a sudden that won't be available to us with which to enrich one another and ourselves with. Because eventually we're going to lose our current position or something like that. And the people that are looking that far down the road, they're the ones that say no to this shit. And a lot of times they're in trusted positions, so it keeps the football alive. And the statements that we've seen or the language that we've seen in some articles where they're saying that ICOs are banned or ICOs are illegal. No. The PBOC offered an advisement. They said, we're going to take more stringent look, and if we find these fuckers are out of compliance, we're going to nuke them. You might want to make some adjustments now and get ahead of us, because if you have them exchanging live while we're scrutinizing them, it's going to be a lot more painful for you to try and keep track of shit. So you might want to kind of step ahead of us here and maybe ban these ICOs that you think might not pass our smell test. And that's what's really going on. The PBOC offered that advisement, and the exchanges said, well, most of these wouldn't even pass as scam coins. They don't even have code enough to be scam coins. So we're going to go ahead and kick them off the exchanges now and get ahead of the fucking PBOC. That's what we're seeing. But no, we get it all spun in our fucking in the articles that we read here that the Chinese government is clamped down on ICOs and no, they haven't. The PBOC made an advisory to their fucking exchanges, and the exchanges are responding in kind, in their best interests. And I mean, that's just normal. But it gives you the impression that somehow or another the Chinese government can actually stop cryptocurrency exchange from happening. And that's something that they can't actually do. And it's the same thing with the American government. They can put all kinds of fuckery on the networks and shit, and they can fuck with the network, and they can delay your transaction just a teeny tiny. But the transaction's eventually going to go through if it made it into the mempool. And so the likelihood of it being stopped is pretty finite. I mean, they would have to stop you from making any network connection whatsoever. And if you're smart and you're doing it like from a public library or some shit like that, forget about it. Forget about it. But anyway, we got this article here, and this one's on Altcoin Today, and this one was authored on September 6, 2017. India keeps quiet on ICOs so far. focuses on cryptocurrency misuse. India has not yet responded to China's sudden ICO ban, with lawmakers continuing to focus on, quote, misuse of cryptocurrencies in general. As part of an ongoing examination of cryptocurrency regulation, the country's central bank told a government panel Monday that such currencies are, quote, susceptible to criminal activity. Bullshit. No more so than fiat currencies. Quote, "It is true that while virtual currencies may have legitimate uses, some of their characteristics are, like anonymity, make them susceptible to misuse or abuse." The Reserve Bank of India reports, quoted by multiple local news outlets. China's heavy-handed approach to ICO control has yet to find company among major economies, even with Hong Kong choosing to, quote, follow a similar approach to that of the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. India's legislative noises have focused significantly on the use of virtual currencies such as Bitcoin for illegitimate means, and its ostensibly doomed cash reforms also sought to squeeze out, quote, black money from the economy. While regulation may be on the horizon for Bitcoin, however, digital tokens continue to exist in a gray area. Consumers are more than aware of the profit potential, with altcoin and ICO trading forming the topic of a mainstream media piece published on Wednesday. Around April-May this year, I got introduced to cryptocurrency, and after researching a bit, I decided to invest in a couple of ICOs like Humanique and Taz. They gave me around 6 to 8 times growth, one dedicated amateur trader told Factor Daily. God damn. Wish I was that good. But anyway, here you have it. You know, India, they are rife with fucking the worst corruption of any government, and I mean it's all but like I don't know how to quantify it. It's like cultural there, you know. I mean they have gold as a cultural artifact. You know, it's their customary dowry in marriages and shit. And you're going to tell these people, oh yeah, we're going to put all kinds of capital controls on you. We're going to confiscate your gold, or we're going to put limits on gold sales or the gold window. That's not going to stop gold sales. It's not even going to come close. I mean, those people still have the roadway markets, you know, where they're just littered with people that have brought their wares, you know, whatever it may be, to public squares to be sold. That's a cultural thing for them still. They are not all that far away from gold exchanges being the basis for a lot of their finance. So the idea that you're going to migrate them to this regime where they aren't allowed to participate in cryptocurrencies, or that, and especially now, holy shit, couldn't think of a worse time to try and impose cryptocurrency legislation on them, or worse situation. And again, like I said, they're corrupt to the fucking core. So you're talking about a situation that's basically like Venezuela, except on a second world level. And I say second world because they're not quite first world, because they have a significant percentage of the population that's living in the third and fourth world, if not the fifth. But the point being that they are so stratified culturally, and a lot of it is actually endemic in their culture. You know, they have such a thing as untouchables in their culture, and they do have a caste system, despite the lack of official recognition of it. It still exists, and it's still pursued there. It's still utilized there. But anyway, they have all of these cultural artifacts. And so you've got to understand that barter is a bit more of their commerce than most westernized nations. And so, the idea that you can just do this top-down, wave a magic wand and change your monetary policy, no. It affects them much too badly to do that. And I think now that they're seeing the negative effects of that, those cash control restraints that they were putting up, I think that they're going to step back from that, number one. But number two, that they're going to be that much further away from any kind of real regulation with regard to cryptocurrencies. I think as cryptocurrencies become more widely used, that if we do see a full Venezuela situation where the cops are busting people for mining Bitcoin just on bullshit charges and ganking their mining gear, and then taking it home and setting it up and firing up their fucking miners at their house, I think that when that really starts happening in India, if they ever get serious about cracking down on cryptocurrencies, that again, you're going to see a major step back from that, because then those officials are going to be worried about keeping the doors open for their own exchanges. They're going to want to sell their Bitcoin for rupees or whatever the fuck that they actually transact in there in India. And because they need that door to be open, they're gonna keep it open. And it's not going to matter what our central banks want. It's not going to matter what the IMF wants. They're going to be looking at it and seeing that, wait a minute, this is keeping our economy afloat enough to where we are much more self-sustaining this way. And the money isn't actually leaving India. We're actually doing more business now than we were before. And they're going to flip the IMF off. The IMF is going to say, hey, we'll loan you $80 billion in SDRs. And they're going to say, fuck your SDR, man. We got Bitcoin. We got Litecoin. We got Verge. We're set. You can just go fuck yourself. We've been trying to, we as in the United States, has been doing most of what it's been doing in efforts to keep it to where everybody transacting in US dollars benefits us. Like when most people don't really understand the value principle of the US dollar, or the Federal Reserve note as it really is. And this is how it works. See, the Federal Reserve note isn't actually worth anything. It's a IOU written by a private bank. Okay, now what it promises to pay is an equivalent value, a monetary value of that bill in actual goods. Okay? And so when you go to Albertsons or whatever fucking local market you got there, 7-Eleven or whatever, and you go there and you pick something out and you set it on the counter, and the person tells you how much US dollars to give them, or Federal Reserve notes, and you hand that to them, what you're actually doing is putting the value, the monetary value of that thing against those the IOUs in your hand. You're giving it, those IOUs, the value of the thing that you're purchasing it. And the person that's doing the exchange is working this magic. You see how that works? And so that's one of the reasons why cryptocurrencies are so dangerous. Is because you take that monetary value, that capability of of putting some money or putting something of value on IOUs written by a private bank, you take whatever value capacity that monetary value has out of the economy. And we talked about this a little bit the other day, where you're not just talking about like a dollar here or whatever, because everything works on fractional reserve, okay? And so the dollar that you spend somewhere, it's also represented on a balance sheet as a sum or part of a sum. And that sum is the backing for other obligations. And so its value metric is increased exponentially for every obligation that it's associated with, because we have multiple tiers of obligations, each backing the other. And so that $1, when you extrapolate its estimated value or its expanded value throughout this tier, you're not talking about $1. You're talking about $1,000. You're talking about $10,000 worth of monetary value that's not coming into the economy or being taken out of it in the case of an actual exchange. But in the case where the currency is just minted into existence via mining, it actually has zero interface, with the exception of the dollar costs. So once you take electricity out, once you take the hardware cost out and the bandwidth cost out, the value that's created there, you're essentially doing something akin to the Federal Reserve, with the exception that there is a time, an actual time and an actual hardware input for it, an actual real world input for it. That's what most people don't understand about cryptocurrencies, is that unlike fiat currencies, they're a receipt for work already performed. Okay, the Federal Reserve note is a promise to pay on the production of something else, the promise to pay. Okay, it's an IOU, it's a debt vehicle. It doesn't ever get fulfilled either. They just continue to borrow, and they dilute the value of that debt while it's sitting in your wallet. That's why cryptocurrencies have been rising as fast as they have. That's why everything else has been rising as fast as it has, because people have been exchanging their US dollars for stocks on the stock market, or ICOs, or altcoins, or Bitcoin. Now, eventually, we are going to displace enough monetary value that the greater economy is going to cease to function without us. And I think that's kind of a little bit of an outlandish statement, but the fact of the matter is that our currencies are appreciating on the back of Bitcoin at the same rate that Bitcoin is. And in contrast with Bitcoin too, there's all these issues on the Bitcoin network and whatnot that always drives interest to alts. That always drives interest to things like ICOs. But I think in the semi-longer term, that we're going to be going through a bit of a minefield. That our governments are going to continue to point at cryptocurrencies in awe and wonder, trying to think of ways to grab a hold of them. And all I can say to you is that you have to listen to yourself, and you have to do your homework. If you're going to involve yourself in this space, you have to do your homework. Otherwise, you're just going to get wrecked. You're going to get your feelings hurt. You're not going to like cryptocurrencies, and then you're going to go back into fiat currencies and watch your funds dissipate right in your own wallet. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down to some music. And with regard to what to put in, I've played this once before, but I love this song. And here it is, Ministry, Punch in the Face, here on Coin Metal. And that was Beg to Differ by Prong. Oy. And so, we're coming down to that tailing end of it here. And I got another article here, Cointelegraph. This is by John Buck. And let's see, this was authored supposedly 32 minutes ago. European Central Bank and Bank of Japan, blockchain too immature for adoption. And let's check and verify. This looks particularly short. I want to make sure this isn't from another page, as we've seen that some people do. No, this just looks like a very short article. Anyway, here we go. Project Stella has released its findings after a year-long study of distributed ledgers. The 2016 attempt by the European Central Bank and the Bank of Japan to adopt blockchain technology for large banking transactions has determined that the technology is not ready to take over major institutional banking challenges. While the reports were favorable regarding the performance of blockchain technology for banking needs, they nevertheless concluded that the technology is not at a point of maturity to function as a solution for banking practices at this time. The report concludes, in conclusion, while the test series produced promising results, it should be taken into account that no direct conclusion can be drawn from the test setup with respect to a potential usage in production. Given the relative immaturity of the technology, DLT is not a solution for large-scale applications like BOJNet and Target 2 at this stage of development. While there has been a number of banking institutions that have adopted blockchain technology for their transaction and document needs, this report by large-scale banks indicates that the technology may not be robust enough at this time to be a viable option. Whatever. Look, we all know that in order for a quote-unquote blockchain to be worth a shit, it's got to be the product of a series of interested parties, not just one interested party. And this is a mistake that we keep seeing people making over and over and over again. Okay, it's this idea that somehow or another you are going to have blockchains and nobody's going to participate in them but you, and they're going to remain viable and trustworthy. This is not the case. You will always lie for your own best interest. That's why we take that interest away from you in Bitcoin. Because it doesn't matter how well you lie on your books. If you're not the person that completes the block of transactions first and contributes the next block to the chain, you do not get the block reward. That's all there is to it. That's what these fucking people hate so much about it, is that they can't fudge the books. They can't lie and say that, oh, we got the Bitcoin. Yeah, we got it. No problem. We say, give us the public address. Show us that you have it. And they can't. And they won't be able to. You know, this is why they hate it so much. Because it's a real tool of accountability. And it doesn't require us to trust it. It just requires that we know how to check. You know, as long as we know how to check, we can check and verify. We don't need to trust anybody. I can verify with my public address. Yep, funds are still there. Funds were there a moment ago. Funds will be there again. I can trust in that. I can't trust a bank. I could wake up tomorrow and they could have dreamt up some new fee for some new program or some new security shit that they dreamt up in their fucking board meeting or whatever. And the next month I see $7.95 has been nicked off of my account for a fee for this program that I didn't have any say as to whether or not I wanted to sign up for it. The bank just decided for me. And hell, if I want to withdraw all my money out, they're probably going to charge me another fee for closing the account. Does any of that crap exist in cryptocurrencies? If it does, you probably shouldn't do business with the person doing that to you, because there are other options. You don't have to do business with them. Anyway, I have this other article here, and this one's on the New York Times, and again, it is from New York, so you can take it with a grain of salt. And this one, SEC chief says cybercrime risks are substantial and systemic. This is by Reuters, and it's authored on September 5th, 2017. New York. Regulators must do more to help mom and pop investors better understand the potential risks posed by cybercrime and new technologies used to commit fraud, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Jay Clayton said on Tuesday. Clayton, who was appointed to the commission earlier this year, said cybersecurity would be one of the top enforcement issues during his tenure at the head of Wall Street's main regulator. Quote, I am not comfortable that the American investing public understands substantial risks that we face systemically from cyber issues, he said during a panel discussion at New York University. Quote, I'd like to see better disclosure around that. One concern for the SEC relates to the rise in cases of information being stolen by hackers to gain some sort of market advantage, said Stephanie Avakian, co-director of the SEC's Enforcement Division, who joined Clayton on the panel along with co-director Stephen Pekin. Oh gosh, where do we recognize that name from? Other areas of focus include ensuring financial firms take the appropriate steps to safeguard sensitive information, cyber-related disclosure failures, and the growing prevalence of initial coin offerings, Avakian said. An ICO is where a digital currency based on blockchain technology is sold publicly, and the currency is often traded on secondary exchanges. The SEC said in July that tokens issued through ICOs, which have allowed startups to raise $1 billion so far, actually $1.8 billion so far, this year, can be considered securities, meaning they would fall under laws that require disclosures and are subject to regulatory scrutiny to protect investors unless a valid exemption applies. That's not what they said at all. They said some can be considered securities, but that they were not going to be pressing anything at the moment, regardless. Anyway, continuing. The SEC has a number of active investigations into companies that have claimed to be in on the blockchain and digital currency space, but which are really just trying to steal people's money, Pekin said. As with any kind of newsworthy event, Roaches kind of crawl out of the woodwork and try to scam money off of investors, he said, of the rapidly growing popularity of ICOs. The SEC has a distributed ledger technology working group made up of about 90 people across the commission to help keep abreast of emerging developments and technologies, Pekin said. From an enforcement perspective, Clayton said there are not any sort of dramatic shift in priorities at the SEC, and that the protecting retail investors from harm would remain the top goal. Would remain the top goal. Dude, really? Lisa, you missed it, because Lisa Shoemaker supposedly edited this. Supposedly. She probably got paid to edit it, but the last sentence indicates that she did a shit job. Anyway. So yeah, fucking Pekin. You know, again, I don't consider these people to be, like, qualified to make any decisions as far as whether an ICO is good or not. And, I mean, really, if you've been dealing in the cryptocurrency space, the reality is that exchanges get hacked. The reality is that coins get hacked. And we accept this. We come into this with full knowledge of it. Those instances where fraud can be proven, we have taken these people to court, or we have pursued them in court. But of course, cryptocurrencies do make things a little bit easier to cloak. However, it's not easy to cloak when your name is out there. You know, like, say Vitalik Buterin decided to whip out some ultra secret key that, like, cashed out all of his Ethereum or some shit like that. He's got some like doomsday transaction, you know, that anything happens to me, this transaction goes off and $2 billion just disappears. You know, I mean, wouldn't that be cool to have, right? But just say it happens. I mean, what's the SEC going to do about it? Not a fucking thing. Are they going to recompense you? Or are they going to go after Vitalik Buterin? What if that's not really Vitalik's name? What if he made up Vitalik Buterin? Holy shit, now you're completely screwed. Because now somebody who looks like Joe Anybody in Russia just evaporated himself with $2 billion. Again, there's nothing anybody can do about it. Not the SEC, not FINRA, not FinCEN, not anybody. Because unlike all the systems that those people currently marshal over, we do not transact in debt vehicles. We transact in receipts for work already performed. And that is why regulation as we have known it does not apply to us. They can say it does, and they can make all kinds of noises like it does, and they can say that what we're doing is IPOs and whatnot, but that's not a reality. It's not a reality in any sense of the word. I mean, again, we do not transact in debt vehicles. All the IPOs that have ever happened have had a backing in debt vehicles, i.e. IOUs issued by a private bank. And so the types of liabilities that we have, it's basically like, it's more akin to gambling in a casino. I mean, does the SEC stalk around the casinos in Nevada and try and make sure everybody's, you know, got an even game there? No, they don't. And if they do, the guy that is there, he's bathing in 17-year-old hookers and cocaine all day. He doesn't review any material. He reports back once a month and says, "Yeah, man, everything is great here. It's an even game, man. No problem. It's all golden, man." Meanwhile, everybody's losing their fucking money out on the floor, and the odds are actually, 33 to 1, not, 8-1, which is what they're supposed to be. But, again, all the SEC can ever offer is the illusion of security. That's all. So why even let them in this space? Why even consider them seriously? I really don't think that most people will. In the longer term, I think most people will just disregard the SEC. They'll see the requirements that the SEC puts forward. They'll see the fitness of the companies that they would like to invest in, but aren't being given the legitimacy or the stamp of approval by the SEC or FINRA or any of those. They're going to say, fuck it. I don't care that it's not regulated. I still want to buy it. And when that happens, oh, fuck. I think it's one of the reasons why all they offer is advisements. Even the PBOC and their ban on... No. They didn't ban shit. They put out an advisory, which is an entirely different thing. If you're in China right now and you wanted to create an ICO and trade on a unregulated exchange, there's nothing anybody can do. And because that reality exists in China, it exists elsewhere as well. There are people that can do all of the means of circumvention. Have a fucking machine that's behind the Great Green Firewall of China that they SSH into or some shit like that, and just forget about it, man. Forget about it. Not gonna stop it. And so I did have an article that I really wanted to round out with, and for some reason I can't find it now. And you know what? It was by her. Let's see if I can find it by looking it up on her page. It would be so cool, but I doubt it'll happen. Oh, where is it? No. Ethereum bullshit. No. God damn it. It's always when you're actually looking for something that you can't find it. Every other time it's like sticking in your face. I swear I've breezed across the article like 8 billion times, but apparently she's very, very prolific. Oh well. Oh yeah, here's something interesting. That's something on ICOs that we may yet read. Oh, let's see. I'm trying really hard to find this one. Ah, here it is. Alright, so now we got twofer. Oh man. Oh my god. Oh wow. Vindication. This one is on CNBC of all places. China ICO ban will help prevent crypto scams, but could create regulatory competition, experts say. What have we been saying all night here? And this is by Luke Graham. China's banning of initial coin offerings for new digital currencies may stop scams and improve the market, but these ICOs are very much here to stay, industry experts told CNBC. ICOs allow organizations to raise investment by selling new cryptocurrencies similar to Bitcoin in return for cash or other established digital currencies. However, the People's Bank of China ruled earlier this week that the practice, which has become popular around the world as well as in China, constitutes illegal fundraising. No, just certain types do. Around $1.78 billion has been raised through ICOs since 2014, according to data from CoinDesk ICO Tracker. However, the major issue is that many ICOs could be scams, with no hope of backers receiving a return on their investment. Just like everything else. Quote, there's no secret that a lot of the initial coin offerings with ads on Facebook promising huge discounts and returns are nothing but a scam, said Sasha Ivanov, CEO of blockchain company Waves, in an email. Quote, the Chinese government could cope with those companies working in a shadow zone of law, but they have finally lost patience as more and more companies tried to raise millions for nothing. Ivanov says the move will be helpful for the industry and predicts that regulated ICOs will be allowed in China in the future. Bullshit, they're not going to be stopped to begin with. One company affected by the ban is online trading platform Black Moon Crypto. It recently raised more than $9 million in an ICO pre-sale. Jesus Christ. The company has now halted its planned promotional activity within China. It will also prohibit Chinese citizens taking part in its token sale on September 12th and will refund citizens who took part in the pre-sale. Black Moon Crypto will continue to take very seriously all initiatives of global regulators and will comply with the upheld requirements. As a professional in the industry, we welcome the cleansing of the market from scrupulous participants and are ready to cooperate with regulators, said the company's CEO Oleg Sadak in an email. The purpose of ICOs. Part of the problem regulators have is that ICOs cover a wide range of activities, according to Linus Lindgren, strategic investor and advisor at BTCX India. One side of the spectrum would be to sell parts of future revenue of a company via issued tokens to investors who look to speculate in the value of such tokens. The other side of the spectrum could be charities issuing thank you tokens in exchange for donations. In between, there are many varieties and mixes of these, he told CNBC via email on Monday. The discussion to be had now is where on the token spectrum regulators will draw the line and where and how these activities should be regulated. The move by China received mixed reactions. Cryptocurrencies fell on the move as it created negative market sentiment. Bitcoin hit a low of 4,037 on Tuesday, but has recovered around $4,500 on Wednesday. Some, such as David Mouskowitz, co-founder and CEO of blockchain-powered social media Indoors, welcomed the move as a way to protect consumers from fraudulent ICOs. Quote, we hope the authorities will recognize the potential of the sector for economic growth and technological development and enact rules which will allow for the safe and secure future of the industry, he said in a press statement. Others were more skeptical, pointing out that the ban could lead to competition with other countries that are more welcoming for ICOs. Quote, some governments and incumbents will try to shut down this movement and come to unreasonable extremes in order to do so. However, thanks to the internet and cryptography, there's no going back, Luis Suende, co-founder and project lead at blockchain developer Aragon, in an email. Eventually, some other governments will embrace token sales and crypto in general, creating jurisdictional competition and forcing the incumbents to be reasonable. Indeed. You know, that's one of those things to allay your fears, you know, and you just gotta ignore that shit and just crypto on, you know. Don't worry about the ban, don't worry about the bullshit. Fucking crypto on. You got to understand that these statements are meant to trigger those market issues. When they stop triggering market issues, that's when they really start getting worried, because that's when the stimulus that they're providing, which is we're going to regulate you, no longer has any kind of sway for them. I mean, for you, you don't see it. You don't care. It just doesn't matter to you anymore. And I really feel like that is what we're going to be heading toward. This inflection point between whether or not what they say is going to be considered by you as something that you want to continue, or something that you want to participate in. If you could see that the regulation isn't doing you any good, all it's really doing is protecting people that are currently richer than you, then what's the likelihood that you're going to get the warm and fuzzies about it, right? What's the likelihood that you're going to consider it as something that you want to actually adhere to? Much, much lower. And it's with that I wanted to read this article really quick. This is a nice little closeout for us. Go ahead and try to stop initial coin offerings. And this is by Elaine Ew, or I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. China's ban on initial coin offerings has provided a much-needed pause in the booming market, where people ranging from legitimate entrepreneurs to outright thieves attract money by selling digital tokens. But the move also raises a question. How can any government control a phenomenon that transcends national borders and rules? The Chinese central bank's decision to outlaw token sales is significant in part because the country has become an important hub for the digital offerings. As of July, Chinese platforms had raised nearly $400 million from more than 100,000 investors. It's thus not surprising that digital currencies tumbled after the ban was announced. Regulators in China and elsewhere have good reason to be concerned about coin offerings. Although they provide global entrepreneurs with a useful alternative to traditional venture capital, which is local, labor-intensive, and often inaccessible, they are rife with abuse. Promotional campaigns, which can feature such celebrities as Mark Cuban, Paris Hilton, Floyd Mayweather, and even billboards in Times Square, sometimes border on the downright predatory. About 60% of exchange-traded digital currencies end up dead or dormant. Yeah, too fucking bad. Most tokens confer no rights beyond purported access to future service, such as a chance to win a Lamborghini. Lambocoin. Such vague promises can attract hundreds of millions of dollars in part because they get plenty of help from the media, including this one, reports of record-breaking token sales or of the latest hot offering, reinforcing the fear of missing out. FOMO, FOMO, FOMO. Excited by the rare success stories such as the astronomical gains achieved by early investors on the Ethereum currency, everyone wants to go all in on the next big thing. As a result, even a coin that represents nothing more than the F word can achieve a market cap in the millions. Go fuck token. Curbing token sales, though, won't be easy. The decentralized tamper-proof design of the blockchain resists oversight. It doesn't really resist oversight, just resists interference. When China tried to suspend withdrawals at Bitcoin exchanges, the trade simply moved to other venues and messaging apps. Most tokens are administered through a piece of software called a smart contract, which functions like a digital vending machine running on thousands of computers around the world. Even a regulator as powerful as the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission can have a hard time establishing jurisdiction, as evidenced by the continued operation of the Romanian exchange, MPX, which offers Bitcoin denominated virtual securities. In some cases, regulators might not even have anyone to contact. New trading platforms are completely decentralized with no identifiable point of control. That said, maybe the threat of regulatory action can put a chill on the kind of mass marketing that helps make coin offerings so popular. FT's Alphaville's Alpha Chain project offers a sense of what sellers might raise in the absence of gratuitous advertising. After a month on the market, it had collected less than $10 in Bitcoin and Ether. Entrepreneurs who choose digital coin offerings often complain that the venture capital industry is too clubby and insular. That's true, it is, and it should be. Such early-stage funding is granted on nothing more than the funder's reputation. Regular investors have grown a bit spoiled thanks to consumer protection agencies by enforcing laws against false advertising and fraud. They enable people to do business with complete strangers without getting scammed at every corner. A decentralized blockchain doesn't leave room for such oversight, which means that participants are again trading on reputation alone. Without hype and endorsements to propel them, aspiring fundraisers may ultimately find that coin offerings are just as community-based and labor-intensive as their real-world counterparts. Yeah, they are, but we are a bit more open to what we decide to back, as evidenced by some of the coins that are out there. And anyway, that was just to give you the counterbalance that, you know, they can say a bunch of shit, they can make a bunch of noises, they can put some ink on some paper, but they really can't stop you, and they really can't save you from your own stupidity. And that's why on the show I always say, do your homework. And as a matter of fact, with that, I want to go ahead and close out this episode. We will be back again on Friday. And, we want you to, or I would like you to check out my YouTube channel, subscribe, like. We certainly like the support. And I certainly appreciate you guys following me on Twitter and on Facebook. You can find me there and also in Telegram for Verge Currency. And so, on Friday, we will be back again. And until then, I want you all to do your homework. I want you to trade safe. And I want you to watch out for your own bunghole. Because as much as the SEC may pretend that they can, they don't have that capability. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. And let's see what to close out with. I've been dying to play a little bit of System of a Down, and their songs are short enough that we can actually do that. And so it is with that, we'll go ahead and throw in Bounce for our last dance here on Coin Metal. And thank you again very much for listening. I certainly appreciate it. Catch you again on Friday. Good night.